You got the closet. You got the triple it.
Starving, stomach touching, no luncheon. Broke, no hope, pocket lint clutching. Can't eat, can't sleep, can't function. Cop pushing me in the street, bum rushing. Pull something out of the trash can and ate it. Pretend imagining my mom just made it. Breath smelling like boat smoke with no soap. Sprinkler soak, holes that my toenails poke. In my sock from walking the block with no shoes. If I die, I won't even make it on the news. Bump chill, giving the spiel and narration. Hancock is on your watch, legislation. Talk about my tax dollars, put it in context. Buy land, build a complex, it's not that complex. I'm not impressed cause we fell in the test. Folks claiming that they're blessed, but you're looking a mess. I'm in raw, keep a watchful eye in my eye. What you do when the dark comes out on the block. Kids with no place to go, they just roaming. Pushed out from gentrification and zoning. Honing on the issues, get it fixed. So we can praise you on the next one, remix. If Colorado's the best place to live, change it. Homeless can't even get warm meals or blankets.
Hancock, the streets need you. You promised to do something, but we don't believe you. Man, Hancock, the city needs you. Promised to do something, but we don't see you. Man, Hancock, the streets need you. You promised to do something, but we don't believe you. Man, Hancock, the streets need you. You promised to do something.
Picture the vision. Do you care how they living? Is your pride a mile high? Hancock the unforgiving. Forbidden people who treated unequal. Never ending sequels. This world is pure evil. It's a war going on outside. Face your fear. Lack of humanity damaged us from the rear. We got money for wars but can't house the poor. Bank accounts galore, hiding billions offshore. Too many rich people making millions. Poverty's profits are deceptive. Now tell us who's the villain. You'd rather see them in coffin. We seen it too often. Mental madness, you a savage from your talking. Like a toy all wound up. Homeless caps round up on field from the ground up. But scared to come around. Plus, what would you do if this was you? Would you take it for granted the way you do? We know you would.
Hancock, the streets need you. You promised to do something, but we don't believe you. Man, Hancock, the city needs you. Promised to do something, but we don't see you. Man, Hancock, the streets need you. You promised to do something, but we don't believe you. Man, Hancock, the streets need you. You promised to do something.
Downtown looking like a war zone. Many despondent, no place to call home. Let me expound just a little bit. Families is homeless, city ain't this shit. We don't need sweets, we need solutions. Hypothermia, just keep executing. Excrement covers the streets where kids plant their feet, but we throw them $1 just to eat. Wandering into that old mission. Just one night of shelter is not sufficient. Another shot at life is what they need. And a decent place to rest their feet. Remember, one false move, you can be in their shoes. So watch who you turn your nose up to. Aurora and Denver is not the same, but we still say justice for Elijah McClain.
Yeah, Hancock, the streets need you. You promised to do something, but we don't believe you. Man, Hancock, the city needs you. Promised to do something, but we don't see you. Man, Hancock, the streets need you. You promised to do something, but we don't believe you. Man, Hancock, the streets need you. You promised to do something.
The evidence, you've been hesitant and negligent to protect the residents and unhoused veterans. Those you're traumatized, you can learn a lot from. The lessons of life, how to provide protection. The message to the mayor, please understand. This is a Arapaho youth in Cheyenne land. In a pandemic, citizens are dying, man. No place to use the toilet or wash their hands, and no safe outdoor space to shelter in place. The facts you gotta face, you could never erase. Your lame duck legacy, past the buck policy, history of hypocrisy, fake ass apology. The Mile High City's now a danger zone. You disrespect City, Baca, and Calderon, and now we see you got your sights set on DC. Well, we gon' let the whole country know. Believe me.
Yeah, Hancock, the streets need you. You promised to do something, but we don't believe you. Man, Hancock, the city needs you. Promised to do something, but we don't see you. Man, Hancock, the streets need you. You promised to do something, but we don't believe you. Man, Hancock, the streets need you. You promised to do something.
When you got to the Council District 9 offices, how many people were camping?
There were 5 total. One was an older woman who my team members ended up helping. They drove her not just to a hotel, but also went and filled her prescription, paid for it for her, and took her to the store, bought her food for a couple of days.
And then do you know where she spent the night?
It was at the Ramada.
Okay. And then
they also connected her with the Salvation Army because she was on a list for housing. Okay. So they made sure that she stayed on that list.
You disrespectful, racist piece of fucking shit! You wouldn't do that to your fucking mother!
I know.
This woman needs...
So, can you do me a favor? Whatever she needs lifted from over here, can you help her? We're not allowed to touch her. Okay.
What the fuck?
Tilly, here, why don't you come with me? Come with me. Let's go sit down.
For a minute? Yeah, have a seat for a minute.
Yeah. Let's go sit back here.
God, this is a mess.
Here. Do you want an ambulance? We're going to have her sit on this thing back here.
Now I ain't going to an ambulance. I got to get stuff done.
We will get your stuff done.
Can the guys put you in the car if they're bringing in with the AC going?
Well, let me get my purse.
What's that?
I'll get your purse for you.
Get my purse.
Which, is it this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus. I didn't know this.
No, we're sorry.
Sergeant Conover, there's a woman being addressed named Tilly in that video. Can you explain what was happening? Tilly looked like she was in distress. Can you explain what was happening?
Well, all of the screaming and yelling and carrying on was affecting her. It was scaring her. She was afraid that they were going to breach the line and she was going to be injured. That's why I told you Officer Wilson was going out of his way to reassure her.
And is that approach, that method that's being used to sort of comfort Tilly, is that the type of safe space, the kind of the calmness that you're trying to create as the hot team during events like this?
Absolutely.
Based on your perspective, who was it that Tilly was scared of?
Objection, Your Honor. How does he know what Tilly? It's all just speculation.
Well, he was present. If he had some basis to form an opinion on it, go ahead. Basically, when she was talking about being stressed and all of the commotion outside, she, at one point, if you could hear, she said, I didn't expect all this to be going on.
Yeah. So she's speaking about the protesters, not the police.
Yes. She knows my officers. Officer Wilson knows her. She's not, I cannot imagine her being afraid of Officer Wilson.
My name is Tilly English, T-I-L-E-Y, English, E-N-G-L-I-S-H.
Miss English, I just have very, very few brief questions for you. Were you homeless sleeping outside on August 19th, 2020?
Yes, I was, sir.
Miss English, one of the officers there testified that you were distressed that day because of the protesters that were there. Is that true?
No, it was because of the cops, because the reason why it was because of the cops. I went and did everything to get the apartment and everything, and they gave a week. But the next day they came back. So my anxiety attacked me. I fell out and everything. It was a mess.
They had come previously and told you had a week, and you were on a list to get an apartment. But just to be clear, your distress that's shown in these videos and your anxiety attack that happened is all because of the police. Is that right?
Yes, it was.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Hancock, the way you handle stuff on the streets is not legal and it's not right to do the way you do. In my situation, I had everything all in the right order. Apartment available, coming to me within a week and all this, and my campground was not nasty. I took care of my campground and everything, but everything got taken away from me that day. Then when you place people remove people away from their stuff, you destroy people's and take their pride and dignity. That's not right, Mr. Hancock. You really need to give the homeless the benefit of the doubt Most of us do not want to be here. So if you're going to move anybody, have places to put them. Have places to be able to shower and everything else. Do not harass the people on the street because they're just the ones that are the victims. Thank you.
My prior experience was as a law enforcement officer in the Air Force. I've always felt an affinity, with law enforcement. I understand what's going on. I understand, both sides. I only had on my mind just to get breakfast. I had gone outside to smoke in the courtyard area, which is fenced off, and I saw people were serving food right outside, which is a normal happening out there. Food trucks would pull up and serve the homeless. A lot of people are, especially during Christmas time, coming and serving specifically at the shelter itself, at the Crossroads shelter. And I've just been so fortunate to have gotten a bed there because it's one of the least or less restrictive shelters. Just as far as the sense of confinement or the sense of being almost, imprisoned or held like cattle. And I stepped out the door of the shelter and I start to look around and start to take in the picture. And what I see are two officers over on the corner, like talking to each other. There's a park ranger like walking. And I see a homeless, one of the residents of the tents had come up to get some food. And I say, hey, what's going on? And they say, oh, they're kicking them out. They're addicted. And I'm like, oh wow. It just really struck me at that time. And this is the time of COVID. And I had just gotten there to the Crossroads where we were at, completely quiet, nothing going on, except for the food being served. So I got the food, and I was so grateful for it. I hadn't had any money or, a breakfast burrito, for probably a month or so, And so I start to turn to go back to the shelter. And all of a sudden the cops are walking right up on me. And they're just, with a purpose. Sir, where's your tent? I'm like, I don't have a tent. I stay here at the shelter. Sir, you have to leave. Like, I don't have anywhere to go. This is where I live. Sir, if you don't go. And he's walking into me at this point. Now, I have to back up to not make physical contact with the officer. And it's kind of a tactic, a thing that cops will do. You make contact with them, things can escalate, right? Because now you've escalated it because you ran into him, right? That I recognize him. And so as I back up, I also turn my back to him and put my hands up with my food items. And he starts pushing me from behind. And I'm asking him, I'm saying, wait a minute.
He is not resisting!
He says, I'm going to arrest you if you don't go. I said, so you're going to arrest me? I live here at the shelter. I'm just getting breakfast. My breakfast is on the ground. Now I could feel him trying to put me down on the ground. And you can see in the videotape that was taken by the people, this took over a minute. Because I wasn't going to go down on the ground. He didn't tell me to go down on the ground. He was just trying to force me down on the ground without even a direction or anything. If he had told me, I was in a point, in a position of, I was submitted. I was in submission. and he tried to ground me into the ground.
What is he being arrested for? Tell me what he is being arrested for! He needs to know why he's being arrested! You cannot unlawfully detain him!
Told me what I'm arrested.
Tell them! No! What?
Where's your badge number?
Dude, he's behind the fence! Don't hit people with
Mayor Hancock today directed Denver police to cease taking blankets or tents after video surfaced of Denver police taking blankets and other belongings during a recent homeless sweep. As the mayor's office says, it was never the goal to take away belongings.
We have taken people's belongings.
As the mayor's office says, it was never the goal to take away belongings.
We have taken people's belongings. We have taken people's belongings.
Just at a human standpoint,
we have taken people's belongings.
The idea of taking away blankets.
We have taken people's belongings.
The idea of taking away blankets, it's getting cold. It's getting cold.
We have taken people's belongings.
And the mayor's office says that
we have taken people's belongings.
And the mayor's office says that the urban camping ban will continue to be enforced.
Denver has just carried out what may be the largest homeless sweep in its history.
Mass displacement by means of brute force. Mass displacement by means of brute force. Mass displacement by means of brute force. By means of brute force.
The only purpose of all of this is to push the most vulnerable and poor citizens out of sight, out of mind.
By means of brute force.
America doesn't like poor people. America doesn't like poor people. The city of Denver doesn't like poor people. The city of Denver doesn't like poor people.
Mayor Michael Hancock.
The city of Denver doesn't like poor people.
Mayor Michael Hancock has the campaign cash because the mayor is aligned with the business community.
The city of Denver doesn't like poor people.
Because the mayor is aligned with the business community.
We waged war upon the poor.
The city of Denver doesn't like poor people.
Because the mayor is aligned with the business community.
We waged war upon the poor.
The city of Denver doesn't like poor people.
No poor people here. No poor people.
Because the mayor is aligned with the business community.
The city of Denver doesn't like poor people.
No poor people. No poor people. We waged war upon the poor.
Because the mayor is aligned with the business community.
You functionally sentenced the poor to a life of homelessness.
Because the mayor is aligned with the business community on
this. You functionally sentenced the poor to a life of homelessness in a city with a so-called booming and growing economy. This is about a new standard as a city. We haven't figured out how to protect the safety and welfare of struggling people.
Stop giving orders that start these sweeps. Stop giving orders that start these sweeps in the first place. This practice of sweeping unhoused neighbors, despicable because it doesn't concern your health, warmth, or well-being. You do not care. Because it doesn't concern your health, warmth, or well-being. You do not care.
What happens is trash builds up at my campsite, and then all of a sudden the police come. I have a lot of experience in these shelters, and I choose to be homeless. But when I wound up in the hospital, they threw everything away. That includes legal documents, medication, personal supplies that I need to survive. Everything I had was underneath my bed. My bed was my home. Cops come by and they bug us. How much money is being spent on this? Cops come by and they bug us. How much money is being spent on this? It's not fair. How much money is being spent? On that? Please help us.
I am a veteran. I live out there on the streets. I am a citizen. The Marine Corps veteran. I live out there on the streets.
Please help us. We need bathrooms, we need hand washing stations, and water.
I would like to cordially invite you to join us. You guys actually hold a lot of power in this city, and so we want you to feel safe coming out. I would like to cordially invite you to join us. Is that something that you could do next Sunday or the Sunday after?
I can't.
Is that something that you could do?
I can't.
Mayor Michael Hancock, welcome back to Denver. Will you resign?
No.
Mayor Michael Hancock, welcome back to Denver. Will you resign?
That concludes our general public comment session.
In these kinds of social change, it's critical that members of the public have more opportunities to be heard by leaders at all levels of government. The City Council looks forward to hearing from you all again.
This is to Mayor Hancock. When I got here in Denver, the services that was offered to me was almost non-existent. I was in one of the worst positions I could remember, and there was no real help. I'm discriminated against in so many ways. I remember when the sweep happened, and I decided I was going to stand on my constitutional rights, which was non-existent to them because they still swept our camp, and they even took me to jail for standing on my rights. Excuse me if I'm wrong. I'm not, attacking your character or anything like that. I just see a man that only cares about things that will make him more money. Because for the most part, what it looks like to me is that the way you guys make money is by keeping other people that don't in that position. This particular unhoused community that I have been experiencing attacks people like myself, steal people's tents, their belongings, their rights. I see you guys steal all the time, Mayor. I'm just working to see why am I different from you. I mean, is it because I'm scared? Maybe I didn't have as much education as you did. I didn't go through your system in the correct manner. I'm just looking to see why am I treated different. Maybe your carer is broke or something, and you may need a mechanic to fix your carer so that it'll actually function better. Or maybe my carer's broke because I couldn't care less what this country or this city or this government is offering us, because apparently I ain't a part of us. So I'm just working to see where do I fall. I'm also working to see in which way are we alike. Could you help me to kind of enlighten myself in that matter? Because I would more like to be like you than unlike you. Because maybe I could start getting some of the benefits you have been getting from taking things from others or whatever it is. But I thought together we stand and united we fall. Yet all I see is united we fall. The togetherness is almost non-existent. Now tell me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mayor, because I'm only an unhoused neighbor, just like some of the other people around. Not like you, apparently, because we're so different.
I want to ask you about the CDC's guidance relating to COVID-19 and homelessness. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Have you been trained on it?
Specifically trained on it, but I've did some reading up on my own, and it's been discussed.
Yeah, and that's because you're a member of the HOT team, so most of your duties relate to homelessness. Is that right?
Yes.
So you know that the guidance states that homeless encampments shouldn't be cleared during the pandemic unless individual housing options are available, right?
I think that's one portion of it, yeah.
Okay. And you know that sweeps have happened during the pandemic without offering every single person at an encampment individualized housing, right?
Well, not everybody asks for that. So if it's asked for or if the opportunity arises, we go out of our way to try to make sure that that is possible. That's where the P card and the hotel voucher came about.
Right, but at every sweep that has happened since the pandemic started, every single person at that sweep hasn't been offered an individualized housing option, correct?
Yeah, following what you're saying, that's correct.
Yeah. When these encampments were cleared, they technically violated the CDC guidance, right?
Objection. There's not been any sort of information that this witness is an expert in nature, non-compliant CDC guidelines.
Right, I agree. Sustained.
As a hot team officer, I imagine you're acquainted with the city's resources and the resources that are available to folks who you're contacting on a daily basis?
Yes.
So you're aware of shelter capacity and things like that?
Yes.
You're aware of on any given night how many shelter beds would be available, is that right?
I'm aware of how to find that information, yeah.
Okay. And you know that during the pandemic, the shelter capacity in the city of Denver has significantly decreased, right?
I don't have the numbers on that, but I'm guessing you do. So
okay.
Yeah, I don't keep track of the numbers like that. We'll call and find out if there's room in the shelter space and all that. They did have to reduce the numbers in the shelter. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Spaces, yes.
Okay.
To allow for social distancing, right?
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Hancock. My name is Julian McGay. I am one of the homeless people that was at Arkins that was swept about a month or so ago. The question I got asked the most by the people at Arkins was, where do we go? What do we do? There's people that literally could not get 2 blocks from there on their own. And the sweep came, and it literally scared people to death because they had officers running their sirens at the break of dawn. They had guys throwing fences up. Everybody was panicking, and you didn't know what to do. And there was people like me trying to help people who were panicking, and then we got blocked out of our tents by the guys with the fences. And honestly, I have that question. Where are we gonna go? I've been getting chased around this town for 2 years. One night I got swept 3 different times. They didn't let us alone until 3 o'clock in the morning. They came up, told us we had to go, we packed it up, we went somewhere else. Before we got the tent up, or once we had the tent set up, there was an officer right there too. And honestly, I mean, I'm at a loss to make ends meet. I came here and I was working construction, and it just fell. I mean, it was no fault of mine, it was no fault of theirs. They just didn't have the projects because people didn't have the money. I lost my motel room, and honestly, I didn't even have bus fare downtown. The people at the shelter were wonderful. I mean, they helped me everything they can. But I've got PTSD from being in the Marine Corps. When I say I've got to go outside, I've got to go outside because I can't stop that. I'm going to have a panic attack, and if somebody comes up and even touches me or bumps me, I think they're trying to hurt me, and my mind says they're trying to hurt me. But they tell me at the shelters that if I step outside, I can't come back in. So shelters don't work for me. So my only choice is to be out there on the street because everything I have in this world fits in a couple of carts. If I leave that alone to go to work or go do something, I have to take all of that stuff with me. It's hard to do job interviews when you've got 2 grocery carts outside full of all your stuff stacked way high. You know? I need services. My wallet got stolen a year ago, and I still, to this day, have not gotten an ID. I haven't gotten my food stamp card because everything was closed down. And I'm not from here, so I didn't know where to go for the services in the first place. And there are people that travel around to the different camps and, with services, and they'll help you and have a phone number, but I don't have a phone. So how am I going to call them? How am I going to do this? I mean, what are we supposed to do?
Headwaters Protectors is a mutual aid group that gathers every single Sunday at 10 a.m. here in Benedict Newfound Park. We start with training of individuals in harm reduction, emergency water systems, and we have democratic discussions about how we want to use our collective power to influence the process, and also where do we want to go and where do we want to serve. After we've had the training, we go to an encampment, we begin washing people's hands, we provide hot water, we provide drinking water, we have medics, we hand out other basic supplies that come to us, and most importantly, we protect the water by cleaning up trash. All right, what you see here is exactly why we need to have waste services provided to individuals. People do not stop making waste. It's naturally how we exist as human beings. And what you can see here is those that are living in this encampment on this block are making a pile here. All they need is the city to come pick this up regularly. We know from our work with the individuals that are unhoused that they don't want to be living in this trash either. And I want to point out, there are all sorts of things that you might see here that are donated from the community. Also, when you don't pick up the trash, the animals get into it. They get ripped open and ends up with trash everywhere. And so if this isn't picked up regularly, you'll see that even bag trash eventually becomes a problem. And I want to take you around the corner here to show you an example of the city spending a lot of money fencing people out, but not actually doing the work to clean up afterwards. As you can see here, this is the money that we're spending here on fencing out individuals. But you can see that they don't actually perform any of the cleanup when they're here. They leave all of this to end up in the water. We spend all this money on these private firms, and they leave all of this. We have found a couple needles as well. Again, the city continues to tell us this is about public health, and yet it's really about profit and zoning. If it were about people, we would be putting out restrooms, we would be putting out sinks, and we would be making sure that we leave these places impeccable. So this is what my team does. My team goes, and not only do we protect the people, but we show the people that the government continues to fail them and that this isn't really about public health. As you know, Mayor Hancock, I was on the Denver Parks Board, and I believe the Denver Parks, the Department of Transportation, and the Department of Public Health and Environment have the tools now to solve these problems. The community has brought forward solutions. I invite you to work with us. Beyond finding solutions temporarily for individuals to access water and sanitation, which we all need, we've also offered solutions for growing and scaling safe outdoor sites. You know, I've come from working on large festivals that have had great coordination with the city. We brought forward partners who come with expertise in managing the largest camping festivals, the largest indoor festivals. And so we have offered these solutions to you, to the Denver Regional Council of Governments, and I ask that you get behind us in pushing for safer situations for everyone. When we all protect the water, we all win. When we all clean up the litter, we all win. And so I really hope, Mayor Hancock, that you can see that I've put in the work to do some of the largest cleanups in this town, that I've put in the work to organize the people, and that my peers and the people that voted for me and continue to support my work want you to do this. Thank you.
1, 2, 3.
Headwaters Center!
So, dear Mayor Hancock, my name is Anna Cornelius and I am an organizer for Denver Homeless Out Loud. I am very disappointed that a black man would be advocating for the commodification of humans, very much like slavery. It continues through the way that you have decided to manage our unhoused community members, most of which are Black, Indigenous, and people of color. I'd like to explain why I believe that the sweeps and that policy is reminiscent of slavery is because this is the commodification of human beings for profit. So the city, in moving folks and displacing them over and over and over again, there are people that are profiting off of that. The city is profiting off of that. There are contracts that you are signing off on, and those people are profiting from that. Developers are profiting from that. And so when you profit off the movement of people, the displacement of people, the trauma of human beings, that is slavery. And you may not be beating them with a stick or with a whip, but you are still imposing huge trauma loads on human beings who have no ability to change that situation for themselves. They have no ability to advocate for themselves. They have no ability to pull themselves up out of that situation. It is your responsibility to take care of all residents, not just the ones that are lining your pockets. It is traumatizing, not just to our unhoused community. It's traumatizing for advocates, it's traumatizing for service providers, it's traumatizing to city employees, and it's also traumatizing to many police officers who did not sign up to be displacing marginalized people. They signed up to go fight crime. This is not crime. Existence is not a crime. Your ancestors existed. Your ancestors can't. But you are denying the very thing that you needed to survive to other human beings. Since the pandemic, there are no public restrooms. There are very few businesses that are open or that allow folks to come in to use the restroom. Libraries are closed. All of our services are closed. If you want to go get food stamps, you can't go to the food stamp office. You have to either go online or call. So you need to have the privilege of a phone or computer access to do those things. We're seeing folks who were barely surviving before the pandemic now have no options during the pandemic. For folks who don't have access to the internet, it is just a hurdle that cannot be overcome. And so we have folks who get disability checks, but they don't have an ID, so they can't withdraw the money out of their accounts. So even though they have income and have the ability to take care of some of their needs, right now they are not able to. We know that in order to heal someone, they need safe space, and that can only happen through housing. And you have the opportunity to change that. So that is my challenge to you. What do you want your legacy to be? Do you want it to be the black mayor who imposed slavery conditions in his own city against his own people? Or do you want to be the mayor that recognized his shortcomings and decided to choose a different, more equitable path for all residents of Denver?
Hello, my name is Jesse Sean Paris. I'm a member of Denver Homeless Out Loud and several other community organizations. I'm a community activist, and I was unhoused for almost a decade. But I was always taught when I was coming up never to forget where I came from. Our unhoused neighbors are part of our community. We cannot sweep them out of sight and out of minds. And despite COVID, we had this crisis before COVID. My message to Mayor Hancock is, how dare you treat our unhoused neighbors like you have been doing the past 8 years since the passing of the urban camping ban, which makes it illegal for people to survive on the streets. They can be arrested, ticketed, or harassed just for covering themselves with a tent, a tarp, a sleeping bag. Anything besides their own clothing is deemed illegal under your administration in the city and county of Denver. And that is shameful and just very disrespectful. Especially seeing that you come from the hood, you come from East Denver, you come from the Five Points, you come from the same areas of town that I was born and raised in, and to see how you have basically sold out our whole community and sold out our people for profit is shameful and disrespectful, and you need to be held accountable for that. This whole move along to where are people supposed to move along to? Is Denver for sale to the highest bidder? You're out of touch, Hancock. You've forgotten where you came from. And we're going to continue to call out you for being the sellout that you are. You have to be held accountable for what you're doing. You cannot continue to keep sweeping people like trash. You need to provide housing that people can actually afford. This AMI level needs to go. You need to start producing public housing. And that is unacceptable, Hancock. You want a world-class city, but yet you don't want people that make less than $70,000 a year living in your city. That is shameful and disrespectful. The wages are not keeping up with the cost of living. The cost of living has skyrocketed within the past 10 years of your administration. We don't need any more of this. We don't need any more unintended consequences. We need solutions. We're tired of hearing about the problems. We need solutions, and we need leadership that is going to usher in these solutions and actually listen to their constituents, not just the rich, white, affluent ones. So the question is, who are you working for, Hancock? Are you working for the people? Are you actually being a public servant for the people, or are you working for developers and business owners and corporations? We would really like to know the answers to these questions, Hancock.
There's been suggestions that a piece of land be set aside so that we can go and camp in there. And you know what I mean? You've got a shower and restroom building in the middle, and you've got a building or a place where these people with these services and that can come and actually be there, and we can actually find them and be a part of what's going on. And if you don't want us on the streets of the city, then how come you ran us out over there? We were out of sight, we were out of mind, we were everything. And then they decided we couldn't live there anymore. So now my whole world's topsy-turvy again, and I'm trying to find a place to live. And you got the citizens who are needlessly calling on us and complaints, and we haven't done anything to that. We haven't done anything. We actually picked up all of the trash in the area where we're camping right now before we set up our camps. The neighborhood kids come by and throw snowballs and rocks at us, and come by and scream profanities at us, and so do the people. I mean, there's got to be a way that this community can get together and work together. And that's what I think it is. Having a place, a fenced-in area that is watched by security. I mean, every camp that I've been in, we police ourselves. We do our own security because we are literally in fear of people coming down there and pulling us out of our tents and beating on us or pulling our tents down or stealing our stuff. How can you live like that? I can't be a productive person if I have to live like that. Because like it or not, we're not just gonna go away. We've got to go somewhere. So all I'm asking is just, please, take a look, help us out, and maybe even some of that money that you're paying the police officers and those guys to come sweep us and bulldoze all our worldly belongings, maybe you take some of that money and you put it towards a program like this.
Last year, Denver was the #1 city displacing Latinos. It was only about 15 years ago that Denver was classified as a majority-minority city. Look to the data to find out where Latinos lived and where we are now. Whether we're absent or struggling to hang on, the proof is in the data. Please take into consideration tonight that the Comprehensive Plan and Blueprint Denver direct us to aspire to equity and safety and healthy neighborhoods for everyone in our city, not just the ones who can afford it. While those plans allow for interpretation of equity, community benefits, health, and safety, you tonight have actual residents in front of you who have done the heavy legwork of explaining to you their lived experience, and defining for you equity, safety, and welfare from their perspective. We have collectively protected the single-family zoning character of whiter, wealthier neighborhoods in other parts of this city. We have taken into consideration their fears, their desires, their self-determination and demands for protection, and their interpretation of our city's goals on their terms. Tonight, you are rezoning on the border of a historically Black 5 Points and historically immigrant GES, both working class and poor red line neighborhoods that we abused and neglected for generations until we decided that the urban core was desirable and profitable. We cannot place the entire burden of growth on a single district. We cannot ignore the natives on this riverbank. We cannot continue the notorious legacy of forcible removal of a peoples from their land. The tools of removal have changed, but the outcomes have not. You have the tools in your hand right now. The 5 criteria in front of you tonight are tools that only ask you to stretch your perspective to see the perspectives of the people who we should be building this community for. Please, let the overwhelming majority of opponents to this rezoning inform your interpretation of what it means to facilitate equity, safety, and welfare in this community. This is not about density. This is about the kind of density we build. This is not about this project. This is about a new standard and interpretation of what we need. This is not about a community's right to complain. It's about all of us having the right to define what makes us safe and healthy in our own neighborhoods. A 16-story market rate or luxury development will essentially be a bomb set off in the middle of this community. Please do not detonate this bomb in the face of residents begging you to protect them. Just because we have not figured out how to protect the safety and welfare of struggling people does not mean we have to light the match for the bomb that will erase them.
You got the clown. You got the triple it.
Starving, stomach touching, no lunching, broke, no hope, pocket lint clutching. Can't eat, can't sleep, can't function. Cop pushing me in the street, bum rushing. Pull something out of the trash can and ate it. Pretend imagining my mom just made it. Breath smelling like boat smoke with no soap. Sprinkler soak, holes that my toenails poke. In my sock from walking the block with no shoes. If I die, I won't even make it on the news. Bump chill, giving the spill and narration. Hancock, it's on your watch, legislation. Talk about my tax dollars, put it in contents. Buy land, build a complex, it's not that complex. I'm not impressed cause we're failing the test. Folks claiming that they're blessed, but you're looking a mess. I'm in raw, keep a watchful eye in my eye. What you do when the dark comes out on the block. Kids with no place to go, they just roaming. Pushed out from gentrification and zoning. Honing on the issues, get it fixed. So we can praise you on the next one, remix. If Colorado's the best place to live, change it. Homeless can't even get warm meals or blankets.
Hancock, the streets need you. You promised to do something, but we don't believe you. Man, Hancock, the city needs you. Promised to do something, but we don't see you. Man, Hancock, the streets need you. You promised to do something, but we don't believe you. Man, Hancock, the streets need you. You promised to do something.
Picture the vision. Do you care how they living? Is your pride a mile high? Hancock, the unforgiving. Forbidden people who treated unequal. Never ending sequels. This world is pure evil. It's a war going on outside. Face your fear. Lack of humanity damaged us from the rear. We got money for wars, but can't house the poor. Bank accounts galore, hiding billions offshore. Too many rich people making millions. Poverty's profits are deceptive. Now tell us who's a villain. You rather see them in coffin. We seen it too often. Mental madness, you a savage from your talking like a toy all wound up. Homeless camps round up on bill from the ground up. A scared to come around. Plus, what would you do if this was you? Would you take it for granted the way you do?